then, a 3-0 victory. 4 points off the top 4. 6 points off top of the league. 5 wins in our last 6. 3 clean sheets in our last 6, including back-to-back clean sheets. And we're not even playing well. That's the hallmark of champions, is it not? Now, look, obviously I'm not going to sit here and say we're all of a sudden back in the title race, but you got to look at it with some sort of perspective and say, imagine if we did start playing to a higher level. We're still in there. We're still getting results. We're still grinding out results. We're still defending relatively well. And look, Garnacho scored, or Garnacho, as I should say, as I've now learned how to say his name properly. Garnacho scored probably the best goal I've seen live since Ronaldo's free kick against Portsmouth. There are positives to take, and there is momentum starting to build. It's just, can we capitalise upon it when we go to Galatasaray in a couple of days' time? Can we take that sort of momentum and mindset into a game that is must-win? And I'm not going to sit here and say that today wasn't must-win, because it was must-win. When we're in the position we're in, with how close it is at the top of the Premier League table, be it you think you're competing for the title or just even the top 4. When it's that close, every game is must-win. And we have won today, and we've won well. But I still think the performance needs to be better. And like I say, we need to try and take some of the positives from today's games into the game, again, in Turkey in 3 days' time. But I can sit here with a little bit of optimism. But at the end of the day, you still got to try and take your happy hat off just for a moment and say we've won this game with one of the best goals in Premier League history. A slightly controversial penalty and a breakaway goal where Everton have overcommitted at one end and we've actually taken a chance, which is something we don't do very often. So I'm pleased that we've taken our chance. But look, it wasn't a great performance. You know, I said in the prediction video that I thought this was going to be a 1-1 draw. I said that this was going to be a really tough game for us because the crowd were going to be on our backs. The Everton players were going to be well up for it due to that 10-point deduction. And how do you silence a team and a crowd when they've just had a 10-point deduction, score one of the best goals in Premier League history, and then score a controversial penalty? That's football. And obviously we'll get to the penalty in a moment. But for me, the biggest positives that come out of today's game are the 2 players that came into the starting lineup. And that is Kobbie Mainoo and Luke Shaw. I'll briefly touch on Luke Shaw because I don't think he'll get a lot of plaudits in the next couple of days because of how well Mainoo played and because of Garnacho's goal. But Luke Shaw was integral to our success today. Just having him back on that left-hand side just offered that extra layer of security that we've been lacking. Don't get me wrong, I think Reguilon's done a good job out there. I think Amrabat did an okay job when he had to go out there. But you could just tell that Luke Shaw was back in the team today because the overall balance of the team was just better because we're used to playing with Luke Shaw at left-back. And he was really, really good. Then we have to talk about Kobbie Mainoo. What a Premier League debut. That's got to be up there with one of the best Premier League debuts ever. In terms of an 18-year-old, you know, you can talk about Haaland and whatever, scoring goals and whatnot, but for an 18-year-old to go into a Manchester United midfield that has been, quite frankly, overrun for the first 3 months of this season and be the best player on the pitch speaks volumes as to how talented this player is. I spoke about it in pre-season. We played Arsenal in pre-season, and the lineups were Rice, Havertz, and Odegaard against Mainoo, Fernandes, and Mount. And Kobbie Mainoo was the best midfielder by a mile on that day. He then obviously picked up his injury. He's been missing. He's come back in today, and he absolutely ran the show. And because of how well he played, it allowed McTominay and Bruno to be more progressive going forward, and that's where our chances started coming from. Yes, the front 3 could have done a lot better. We'll get to Rashford shortly as well. But Kobbie Mainoo today made such a difference. He made so much of a difference that it actually became noticeable when he came off because Amrabat came on in his place. And Amrabat, I think, gave the ball away more times in 20 minutes than Mainoo did in 70 minutes. And it was that good of and that perfect a performance from Mainoo that he now has to start every game. If he's going to play like that every single game at 18 years old, he's in the team from the start every single game, and he could seriously be the catalyst for our team going forward. And I'm sure I've titled the video along the lines of the future is now and the youngsters need to play, because he was phenomenal. Garnacho scored the overhead kick, and the third goal comes from Pellistri coming off the bench, picking the ball up, sprinting down the far side, bringing it back inside to Bruno Fernandes. He then feeds Martial, and Martial puts the ball in the net. And poor old Rasmus Højlund must be sitting there going, blimey, I can't buy a goal or an assist in the Premier League. Martial comes in for one game, wins the penalty, and scores a goal. Let's talk about the penalty, because there are people that still think it's not a penalty, and I'm sure a lot of Everton fans think it's not a penalty. My first thought was a dive, I have to be honest with you, and I'm not happy with how Martial's gone to the floor. From a purely objective standpoint, I'm not happy with how Martial has thrown himself to the floor. And my first thought was it was exactly the same case as what happened with the whole Harry Kane penalty incident against Malta, I think it was, the other day, whereby I thought Martial had stuck his leg into Ashley Young and then thrown himself to the floor, as Kane threw his leg into the goalkeeper and went down the other day. And it would have been sweet, sweet irony if that would have been the case, given that that is Ashley Young's speciality. However, when you do see it on the replay, Ashley Young is the one who sticks his leg out. Martial doesn't break his stride, doesn't stick his leg out. There is contact. But like I say, I don't like how Martial just flings himself to the ground, arms out. It's not a good look. You can tell he's looking for a penalty. But it is, unfortunately, for Everton, a penalty. And I don't think there can be too many arguments about it. There is clear contact. Young stuck his leg out. Should Young have been sent off for it? Another debate for another day. But it should have been a penalty. The only real concerns for me today were, firstly, how many chances we were giving up. And I spoke about how Mainoo does need to start, but he probably still needs a little bit more extra help. Like I said, he brought McTominay and Fernandes into the game more going forward, but we all know about the sort of frailties that Bruno Fernandes and McTominay have going backwards. And as well as Mainoo played, he wasn't really breaking too much up, and McTominay is clumsy in there. So I still think there is need for a Casemiro in there. I know we're looking at Youssouf Fofana in January, which would be a signing I'd be a massive advocate for. I think Youssouf Fofana is a brilliant break-up player. I wouldn't mind if it was Amrabat in there with Mainoo, to be honest, as much as I love McTominay's drive. I just think the way that Mainoo played today, he took our midfield to another level. It was a very Michael Carrick-esque performance, and that is very high praise from me. I know there are certain people that watch this channel, Dan, who don't like Michael Carrick, but for me, that was the closest thing to Michael Carrick I've seen in a Manchester United shirt since Michael Carrick retired from Manchester United, and he needs to be playing. I just think he needs that little bit of extra protection. But to be honest with you, as many shots as Everton had, I think Onana was really only forced into one really good save where he tipped it over the bar. I think it was from Jack Harrison. And there was the one from Mikalenko that hit the bar. But other than that, the saves were pretty tame. Yes, Everton had a few good chances. The header from Calvert-Lewin, the first time shot from Doucouré that a lot of people said Doucouré should have scored. But if you watch the replay, if Doucouré would have got it on target, Lindelof would have blocked it. Other than that, I thought we were pretty defensively solid. I don't think we were, like I said, we were conceding shots, but we weren't conceding chances. And I think there is a real distinction between that. And I'd be interested to see some of the stats in terms of actual chances created, big chances created, because I don't think Everton really did too much because of how well we did force them into long shots. And one final thing to mention when we talk about the Garnacho goal before we round off for today. A lot of people are going to draw the comparisons to the Rooney overhead kick. Firstly, this Garnacho goal is way better than that because he's even further out and gets it even more in the top corner, and he's got to go backwards to get there in the first place. But another thing that needs to be mentioned that probably won't get mentioned, the ball from Lindelof to Rashford is absolutely world class. And we spoke about it after the Luton game, how Maguire was pinging all these balls out to Rashford and Garnacho on the left-hand side. Today, Maguire was pinging those balls out to Garnacho on the left, and Lindelof was pinging those balls out from the left to Rashford on the right. I can see why Varane's not playing. I have to throw it out there. I love Rafael Varane. I think he is our best out-and-out defender. But the style of play change in the last few weeks for Manchester United has meant that we can be a little bit deeper, not too much deeper, but we're a little bit deeper. We've got the solidarity of Maguire and Lindelof in there, and they are hitting these balls that are starting the attacks. And when they stopped us from playing the long ball, that's when Mainoo was dropping in and then creating from the middle. There are some real positives here today. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're back and that we're now in the title challenge. We're not. But we're building up something. I really think we are starting to build on something here. The only final thing that has to be mentioned is Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's body language at the moment stinks. I don't know what is wrong with him. I think something's not right with him mentally at the moment. The fact that Bruno Fernandes gave him the ball for the penalty speaks volumes. The fact that he didn't celebrate after scoring the penalty until the rest of the team started dragging him over speaks volumes. The fact that every time he gets the ball at the moment, he always feels like he has to prove himself, trying to beat players. And then when he loses it, he just flings his arms up in the air and starts walking back, a la Cristiano Ronaldo when he was 18. I think he needs some sort of break. I really do. I thought that we were going to see a little bit more from Rashford today. There's been all these stories joking about in social media how he broke up with his fiancée in the summer and how that's been playing on his mind. And then they were seen spotted together this week. So that meant they were back together and we're going to see a new Rashford today. It was the same Rashford we've seen all season so far. It was a shocking performance from Marcus Rashford. And I think, like I say, with Pellistri banging on the door, with Anthony probably back next week or potentially for Galatasaray, something's got to happen with Rashford. Otherwise, he's going to lose his place in the side. I really think he is, because it's just not happening for him at the moment. And if you're throwing around that sort of body language, especially on a day where the rest of the team has played to a pretty good level, not a great level, but played to a good level, and we've produced a 3-0 performance, to still be stropping at 3-0, to still not be celebrating when you've scored a goal to put your side 2 goals ahead for the first time all season, by the way. First time we've been 2-0 ahead, first time we've been 3-0 ahead all season. Our first win of the season by more than 1 goal. But Rashford to still be stropping really does concern me. So, like I say, positives, lots of positives, but still overall, average to good performance, 6.5, 7 out of 10 performance. But we're there, we're building up, the youngsters are brilliant. Bring on Galatasaray on Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching.